Welcome back into Talking Fitchburg from the newsroom today, and I have a new guest now, and it's Jeff Doslick.
Good afternoon.
How we doing?
I'm doing great today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't have the flu, which is a good thing.
That is a good thing. And quickly, we should pick your brain a little bit.
Sure.
Last segment, we talked a little bit about the influenza that has already started up with some hospitalizations already. What from your standpoint, the flu is tricky. So because everybody's different, everybody's immune system is different, complicated immune systems, yada yada yada. But from your guys' standpoint, what might be a time to call 911 in an influenza situation?
Sure. So usually, people that get the flu, part of it is, they can't eat and they get dehydrated, they're running temperatures and things like that. So I think the best time to call the ambulance is certainly when, you're dizzy and you're weak and you're not keeping any food down, especially for kids, because kids can get dehydrated pretty quickly. So if you're starting to have those types of symptoms, please call us, because the flu can be deadly, and the quicker you get into the hospital and get antibiotics or whatever they're going to give you, I think it's best to do that. If you're just having the runny nose and the fever and the chills, I don't necessarily know that's the time to call, but as you start to get into not being able to keep anything down and you get dehydrated, older adults certainly are more susceptible to having serious complications from the flu, and obviously younger children as well.
Yeah, so there's definitely plenty of tips out there to kind of start your search, if you will, through the web or even calling the clinic too and checking in with them. And if they see a life threat, they'll tell you to call 911
Absolutely.
and get in. But cool, thank you for that update. Quickly here, not quickly, I want to ask you about, I was thinking the other part, but I'll save that for a minute. Fitch-Rona EMS this year is celebrating, 40 years now?
Our 40th anniversary was September 11th of 2017. So the district was incorporated in 1977, and this year we celebrate 40 years of being an EMS district for the City of Fitchburg, City of Verona, and the town of Verona, which they were all kind of townships at the point we incorporated.
That is incredible.
Yeah, it's great.
And maybe if you could just now there's some great history online. I've kind of reviewed some of the online pieces there, but kind of what's your synopsis of where EMS is today versus when you first started?
So I did a little research this morning and went through, fortunately there was the town of Verona had a big stash of information from 1977, so I went through this morning and looked at it. And in 1983, we started to realize that we needed to go from the EMT basic level volunteer level. So the service was strictly volunteer in the early years. And in just reading back on the history, we could tell that they were having issues in getting people to volunteer as well. So in 1985, Fitch-Rona became the first EMT intermediate service in the state of Wisconsin, so they were allowed to do some additional skills starting IVs. And obviously we know now that we're a paramedic level ambulance with full-time staff, 14 full-time staff. I think that, I became an EMT in 1985 as a volunteer and in Fort Atkinson, where I grew up. And just noting where we were back then, where we are now, the amount of education it takes to even become an EMT now is greater. I think it was, I think I put on here somewhere in the neighborhood of, 300 or 100 hours to become an EMT back then. Now it's over 1,200 hours to become a paramedic. And it's hard for services now to do it on a volunteer level, and we know that from looking at the services in this area that are volunteer. They're looking for paid staff. Yeah,
and part of it is changing communities. Not everybody works in the community, and they might travel out of the community. Definitely the education piece. It's always a two-edged sword, is the way I would say, because I've been a volunteer EMT for many years as well. And you're right, it's hard to have your normal job plus doing the volunteering with the education piece, which is great. That's where the two-edged sword comes in. State of Wisconsin happens to be really on top of it and keeping the medical field moving forward. And in a good way, but just changes the atmosphere of the EMS overall.
Certainly, and we know now that even just trying to, we offer education to our paramedics, and at the volunteer level to say you must do this, it becomes difficult just for those reasons. As a volunteer in McFarland, I get education here, and if I'm doing it full time here and then volunteering over, in another area, it's just a lot of time. So you'll see a lot of municipalities start working towards full-time staff.
What did we do to bring in the 40-year anniversary of Fitch-Rona EMS? What are we doing here?
So on November 11th, we'll have kind of a walk-in reception at Quivy's Grove. It'll be from 1 to 4. So if you were a member of Fitch-Rona, you were a committee member, a council member, members of the community, we're just going to do hors d'oeuvres and just kind of reminisce about, the 40-year history of Fitch-Rona.
That's incredible.
Yep.
And you guys already got the award for 40 years. Did you get that from Dane County this year or next year?
I think we get it next year.
Okay, fantastic. Yep. Insider, that's true insider information right there.
Right.
Jeff, anything else from Fitch-Rona EMS from your standpoint?
Our annual district meeting will be October 16th. And it will be down at the Verona Station, 101 Lincoln Street. And that's a time where we'll review the budget with the municipalities. We'll have some presentations by staff members and our medical director to kind of give an update of what we've done over the last year. And it's a time to just to tell people, what we're doing out in the community and really kind of how busy we are. Call volume has certainly increased. When I went through the archives this morning, in 1979, we did 431 calls as a district, and this year we're on pace to do a little over 3,000 calls as a district.
Wow!
So 40 years, that's a lot of increase. And when I looked at the budget back then, I think the 3 municipalities together contributed a little over $25,000, and we almost have over a $2 million budget this year. So.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Across the board.
Across the board.
Certainly thank you guys, and
thank you very much.
Thank all of the paramedics out there and all the staff for your guys' hard work through all the years.
I will do that.
All right, perfect. And I want to remind you that we'll be covering that meeting as well here on FACTv and rebroadcasting it. So if you can't make it, don't worry, don't fret. We got you covered. We'll rebroadcast it and make it available. Jeff,
awesome.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on 40 years.
Terrific.
All right, we'll take a quick break, wrap up the show. Next, it is Talking Fitchburg.